Can Trump fire Fed Chair Jerome Powell? What will be the consequences? Explained. President Donald Trump is angry with Fed Chair Jerome Powell for not cutting interest rates quickly enough, and has said his termination cannot come fast enough. Trump's comments on Truth Social came after Powell delivered a speech that warned of potential consequences on the U.S. economy due to tariffs, adding that the central bank plans to hold interest rates steady for now. The Fed has put the brakes on interest rate cuts this year due to inflation, which has remained higher than its target growth rate of 2% per year. Nan Trump hired Powell as Fed chair during his first term in 2017. Powell's tenure ends in May 2026. There have been instances in the past where Trump has threatened to fire Powell over interest rates but did not do so. But Trump still cannot fire Powell as per the 1935 ruling of the Supreme Court. It effectively limits the power of the White House to dismiss top federal officials. However, in a matter that also involves Trump, this ruling may be overturned in the near future. Even most legal scholars agree that Trump cannot fire Powell from the Fed's Board of Governors, but there is less agreement over whether a president can remove him as chair, according to the Associated Press. In January, Michael Barr, who was vice chair for supervision, stepped down from that post but remained on the board to avoid a potential legal clash over whether Trump could fire him. Amidst volatility, the market does not anticipate that Powell will be removed from his position, per Market Watch. On the prediction platform Polymarket, the probability that Trump will dismiss Powell this year climbed to 19 cents on the dollar, up modestly from 16 cents. Powell has repeatedly stated that, under current law, the president does not have the authority to fire him. Nan the Federal Reserve Act states that members of the Federal Reserve Board, including the chairman, can be removed by the president for cause, which courts have interpreted as misconduct, inefficiency, or malfeasance, not mere policy disagreements or personal dislike. There is no explicit statute clarifying whether a president can remove the Fed chair specifically, and no president has ever attempted to do so. In the case, Humphreys Executor v. United States, the High Court blocked then-President Franklin D. Roosevelt from firing a commissioner off the Federal Trade Commission. Roosevelt launched New Deal to combat the effects of the Great Depression. This marked an official end of laissez-faire capitalism in the U.S. To implement a major policy shift, Roosevelt needed top federal officials. But not everyone was keen. A former Republican congressman, Humphrey had been appointed to the post in the Federal Trade Commission in 1925 by President Calvin Coolidge, perhaps best known as a champion of the free market. He was reappointed for a 7-year tenure by another Republican, President Herbert Hoover, in 1931. After trying to force Humphrey's resignation, Roosevelt fired him, ignoring a rule that allowed the president to remove a commissioner or agency head only for inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. Though Humphrey died in 1934, his executor proceeded with the case. In 1935, the ruling found that the president did not enjoy illimitable power of removal of officials heading agencies created by Congress such as the FTC. Specifically, it established that they cannot be removed for political reasons alone. The ruling also reaffirmed such agencies' independence from the White House. Note that the conservative-majority Supreme Court has long held a cynical view of the implications of Humphrey's executor. Past rulings of the conservative apex court have championed the unitary executive theory, which would give presidents legal control over every federal job that's not part of Congress or the judiciary. In February, Trump fired Gwyn Wilcox, a Democrat member of the National Labor Relations Board (NLRB), as well as Kathy Harris, a Democrat member of the Merit Systems Protection Board (MSPB). They took the matter to the courts, which ordered their reinstatement. However, the Supreme Court on April 10 issued an order that temporarily blocked these lower court rulings. The court will now consider the case as well as the merits of its 1935 ruling. Jarrett Seaberg, an analyst with TD Cowen Research Group, in a report said, as quoted by CBS News, the president appears to be moving closer to justifying removal of Democrats on the Federal Reserve Board. By firing the 2 Democrats from the credit union regulator, the president is establishing the precedent that he has total discretion over financial regulators, which could include the Federal Reserve. Over the years, Powell has steadfastly defended the central bank's independence. In December, he said insulating the Fed from political influences for the benefit of all Americans, allowing it to make decisions based on economic data rather than at the behest of elected officials. A senior White House official, Elizabeth Warren, told CNBC that U.S. markets will crash if President Trump fires Powell. If Chairman Powell can be fired by the President of the United States, it will crash markets in the United States, she said. Steve Sosnick, chief strategist at Interactive Brokers, told MarketWatch, that any decision that compromises the independence of the Fed could deter foreign investors from investing in U.S. markets. Swipe left for next video. I believe that we underestimate how important many of our institutions are to international investors. Those include a nonpartisan judiciary and a central bank that is immune to political meddling, Sosnick said. Powell reiterated last week that the Fed would wait and see how Trump's tariffs impact the economy and inflation, and that he's comfortable taking time for more clarity before moving ahead with further interest rate cuts. Latest blogs.